Okay, as you work in Office 365, you'll get a list down at the bottom here of recent documents and folders. And so as I've been creating things for examples, you'll see them show up down here. Okay, the second thing we want to look at is Class Notebook, which is OneNote, but with some features designed to work in a classroom with student-teacher interaction. So I'm going to click on this and we'll kind of take a look at how that works. Okay, now before we get started, I want to point out that our district has the Google apps all set up and plugged in so that all student accounts are Google accounts and they work with Google Classroom and other things. So if you want to use OneNote Class Notebook as an option, you do have to sort of manually add students in and manage it that way. It's not set up in our district to work right off the bat. Some districts are Microsoft districts. We're set up with Google, and so that's kind of a difference. Having said that, I still see a lot of teachers in other districts using this, and so you might come across that and you might decide, I kind of like that system and I'd like to get into it. So I wanted to make sure we show you the opportunity you have. Okay, so what I want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and create a class notebook. So I'm going to click that. And I'll give my class a name. We'll call this one English First Period. And I'll click Next. And we're just running through this list here on the left here. These areas will be section groups of your class notebook. So there's going to be a collaboration space where the teachers and students can edit content. There's going to be a content library where the teacher can edit the stuff, but the students can only view it, so they can't make changes to it. So that's read only for the students. And then there'll be student notebooks where the teacher can edit anything in there. You can leave notes for your kids if you need to. The students can edit their own work, but not others' notebooks, and the students can't look at other students' notebooks. So these are individual. Each student has their own copy. Okay, we'll click Next. If you want to, you can add another email address to invite another teacher to help out. Click Next. This is where you would add your student names, and like I said, this is a little trickier. I don't know that they have a code version. Like in Google Classroom, you can just enter a code, and then students can jump in with if they have the code. It looks like here you need to enter their names and addresses, and so that might take a long time to get accomplished. You might be able to add an email group here. I haven't tested that out, so maybe everybody would get the email at once. I'm not sure. But I'm not going to add any students now. I'm going to click Next. Okay, so here are the default sections: handouts, class notes, homework, and quizzes. You can choose not to use those or only use some of them. It's up to you. You can also add more. And so I'm going to add another section. We'll call this one When I'm Done. I always like to have a website or information for students to work on when they've finished all their current work, and this is extending learning or things like that. Okay, so there's my, my sections. So I will click Next. We'll preview it. And this is a preview of the teacher's notebook. And so you got the welcome, collaboration space, and content library. And over here, if you do student's notebook, it looks a little different. That's where the students have the handouts, class notes, and the When I'm Done sections. Okay, so that's the difference here. When you finish this process, you're going to be in the teacher view. So this is what we'll expect to see. So I will click Create. Okay, the notebook is all set up. We have the option of opening it in the online version, which is what I've been using, or there is an app you can download. I'm not going to do that here, but there is a desktop version, so you can download it to your computer, either Windows PC or Mac. It's the same basic idea. So I'm going to stick with the online version here. Okay, and it loads you up with a ton of material in your notebook. Okay, so here's a welcome section. There is links here for training. And so there's a video clip you can watch here, a couple of those. So these are ways to sort of like figure out how would a teacher use this in a classroom setting. So it's still OneNote. It's still the same thing. You got notebooks, sections, and pages. There's a few different areas here. So for example, in the collaboration space, if I create material here, these are documents that my students that I invite would also be able to see and edit. Down here in the content library, this is where I add material where students can see it, but they can't change it. And I can add pages and instructions and things like that here. Up at the top, right in the middle of these menu items that you've been using with OneNote, there's a special menu item for Class Notebook. And that is where you can add and remove students and see how that all works. So I'm going to go ahead and add a student. And I'm going to click this class because that's the student. That's where I want to add the student. And I'm going to type in another email address that we use here for examples. Okay, so I've invited a student. I'm going to go back to my home screen. Here in a second, I'm going to switch over to that student's view and show you how that looks from their perspective. Okay, so as the student, I've logged into Gmail, and I see I have an invitation here. And it says the teacher has invited you to your OneNote class notebook. And so they just go to Gmail and they click Sign Me Up. And then the student has to go through the sign up procedure here. And of course, they need to set their birth date, and I think it needs to be older than age 13. And I'll click Start. Okay, the notebook is ready. I did have to wait a second and hit refresh to make this show up, so if you get that error, that's why. And then I'll say Open in OneNote Online. Okay, and so here is the student view, and the student view has some similar welcome items here. The collaboration space is available. If the teacher had added anything, they could edit this. Notice I'm a student, and I can make changes to this. So that's what happens in collaboration. Content library. This is material I can not make changes to. I can click around, I can't do anything with it. Okay, and then here is the student name section. And here there is handouts, homework, quizzes, class notes, and then there's the when I'm done section that I customized when we set this class up. And so these are areas where the student can create pages and do that kind of stuff. Okay, we'll draw a little face here. We'll call this one my drawing. Okay, I'm going to switch back over to the teacher view. And now that I have a student, I can see that there's a student listed here. And so I can see that. I can go down to the I forget which page, was it under quizzes? I forget which page. Oh, there it is, the drawing. I can see the drawing and notice that I have editing capabilities as a teacher, and so I can go in and draw and say you forgot ears and eyebrows and hair. Okay, so that's the way that OneNote can be used in a classroom setting with teachers and students sharing documents and things like that. Be sure to take a look at some of those introduction videos and things like that. There's a lot more to this. I'm not super familiar with it, but it is a tool that's available and a lot of schools are using it.